Sarah.
I'm Alicia.
And I'm Jazzy, and we are the Girlies that read.
Welcome. Today we are back with another book review, and today's book is If We Were Villains by M L Rio. This is our first murder mystery on the channel. Yay! I'm actually super stoked. I love a murder mystery. One of my favorite types of books to read. I don't read them enough though. I really need to read some more, but definitely my favorite. And I think I can say we all really enjoyed this book as well.
Yeah.
So it was a good month. It was a good pick because it was our May book club's book.
Yeah.
And it was just, solid pick, solid read. Really excited to get into the details today. And we're going to start this off with a spoiler warning.
Spoiler.
So this is your one and only warning. We are going to be talking about full details of the story. We're going to be talking about all the plot points, all the characters. Nothing is off limits. So if you have not read this book and you do not want to be spoiled, leave, come back later, and then join us when you have read the book. If you don't give a crap, or if you've read it, get ready, sit down, grab some popcorn, grab a coffee, get your favourite blanket, get your pet, put them in your lap, and let's jump on in to this discussion.
Love it.
So we'll just start off with a very brief overview. So if you haven't read it, you kind of know what we're talking about. Yeah. And if you have read it, but it's been a while, this will be a bit of a refresher of what we're talking about today. But so basically, If We Were Villains follows 7 young actors studying Shakespeare at an elite arts college. Ooh.
Very fancy.
And one devastating and tragic event sends everything spiraling out of control. Shit hits the fan. Basically, we follow Oliver Marks, who has just finished serving 10 years in jail for a murder that he may or may not have committed. On his day of release, he is met by Detective Colburn, who is retiring and asks for the truth of what happened after all these years. Oliver takes the reader through flashbacks as he explains the events of what led to his eventual arrest. The story of him and 6 other students who are obsessed with Shakespeare find themselves living out the experience of the plays they have consumed for so many years as the lines between stage and reality become blurred.
Very good. Very interesting.
Dun, dun, dun.
So for this book discussion, we are going to go act by act. This book is very different to other kind of fantasy or young adult-ish books because it's actually plotted in acts and scenes. So we're going to start obviously in Act 1. If you know how to count, you should know that. But
Really? I thought we started at 4.
actually starting at 1 today.
No way.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah,
I was confused there for a second.
It's okay. I got you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we're, at the start of each act, at the start of each act, we are going to just give you a few context points of what happened within that act, so that you know where we are at in the story. So Act 1 starts with a flashback, and it's setting up the scene that Oliver is the one who has been imprisoned, and it's his point of view, and the whole story is a narration to the detective Colburn. To the detective Colburn. So Act 1 is very much meeting all the characters, meeting the cast. We've got, 7 friends. So there's Oliver, James, Meredith, Richard, Philippa, Alexander, and Ren. So there's a lot of people being introduced very quickly.
Can I also say, just in that,
Go.
it literally lays out the first 2 sentences. The time, September 1997, my 4th and final year at Delaware Classical Conservatory. The place, Broadwater, Illinois, a small town of almost no consequence. It had been a warm autumn so far. Enter the players. There were 7 of us then, 7 bright young things with wide, precious futures ahead of us, though we saw no further than the books in front of our faces. And then it goes into the 7 castmates.
Pretty much.
So it literally sets it up like a screenwriting play.
Yeah, it's like a set back, and also that's a lot of people to meet at once.
It is.
You literally went, okay, here's 7 people, remember.
Good luck. Yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
But I love that it intros and it's like, there were 7 of us then. And then you're like, what? What happened? I guess you got to keep reading to find out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty interesting. And so basically the first act is all about meeting the characters, setting up the setting up the dynamic and relationships between them all, how they interact, the tensions, and what kind of is behind the scenes of all the characters and their motivations and whatnot. Or some motivations, I guess.
Yeah.
Hinting at some motivations. We kind of find out a bit along the way. But anyway, so the final scene in this act was the lake scene, and it's where Meredith was on Oliver's shoulders and they were doing like that pool wrestling. You know when you go to the swimming pool and you always like fight? I don't know what you call that.
Yeah, there's 2 people per team, generally a girl on the guy's shoulders, and you kind of fight to push the other person off the other person's shoulders.
And whoever wins is like, you know, crowned amazing or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they
bragging rights.
yeah, pretty much bragging rights. So they were doing that. They were playing in the lake, whatever. And so Richard got jealous that Meredith, which was his girlfriend, was on another boy's shoulders, which was Oliver, and basically tried to drown James out of like nowhere.
Yeah, it really sets up like the
like jealousy.
Well, it's more like this is the first point where you kind of go, something's really wrong.
Yes.
Something is not right here between these characters.
Their friends ain't friending.
Yeah. Especially when like Oliver really gives you the impression at first that
they're all good.
Yeah.
they've been friends for 4 years, I think it is, 4 years. And like, you know, they're the only ones left standing in this institute because every year people literally went, nah, you're not good enough, out. You don't get to keep going in this course of study. It's you're the best of the best. Or you're not here anymore every year. So like they've been through this 3 times where the people are getting eliminated and they're all that's left. And so you would think by this point, yes, there's obviously tension between like competition with their studies and whatnot, but you would still think they've got a solid foundation of friendship.
Yeah.
And Oliver makes you think that. And then next thing you know, one of them's trying to drown another one.
Because that's what Oliver believes.
Yes, because he is, which is actually one of my favourite things, he's a very unreliable narrator.
Yeah. Like we started in the first, I think, discussion or what the summary itself, like it is all from his point of view.
It's his interpretation of events.
Yeah, which is very interesting because the way he sees things is not how the other characters are seeing it, which adds more mystery to the characters that we do see through him because we trust, as a reader, like at least I didn't trust anything he was saying because I'm like, well, that's what you think, but that's not how they might be in reality.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the really good elements of a whodunit mystery is because we're reliving it through Oliver, who is not an outsider. Because I feel like a lot of whodunits, you follow the detective and obviously it's them trying to interpret what has happened from other people's perspectives. But in this case, we're actually in the shoes of someone who's involved in whatever's happened.
Yeah.
And his interpretation, well, we don't know if it's the right interpretation or if he's intentionally misleading us or what's going on. We're basically just having to wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to work out, is he right? Is he wrong? Whatever.
We don't know.
As we go. And then,
Yeah, legit. Well, I guess that's the overview of the act.
That's the overview.
That's pretty much the overview.
Yeah.
Did you want to start maybe, Alicia? You've got a few things to say?
Sure. I don't know if you have read any of the Shakespeare plays referenced in this book, but I had already read Julius Caesar, which this book quite heavily relies on, and I think it also relies quite heavily on Macbeth, which is another one I've read previously. Like I knew the story, but I didn't have a refresher of it. And King Lear, I hadn't read it, but I knew the story. But in preparation for this book, or like during midway when I was reading this book, because it was so heavy with Shakespeare references, like so intensely heavy. I don't know any normal group of people that just break out talking and quoting Shakespeare in a normal conversation. Because it was so heavy, I did pick up like, I think 7 Shakespeare books and read through them. Because I was like, what is going on? Like I understand it, but like I understand the what a common person when they're reading it would, but the amount of references, I could not understand like what the author was intending, and that's something I really like to figure out, like why did the author make certain decisions when they're writing the book. And I knew Julius Caesar's story, and literally the first chapter we get a whole cast list of who plays what for that play. And if we all know, we know Brutus, we know Caesar, we know what happens between them. And there was one person that was Brutus, and there was one person that was supposed to be Caesar, and exactly that happened.
Reality reflected the play.
Yeah.
So much so that something I noticed when we were reading this book was that the characters were never given facial descriptions because they were always described through the lens of Shakespeare's characters. So anytime I went through the book trying to find, like, can I get an eye color? Can I get, like, apart from hair was the only thing I feel like it was described. And they always kept going on, like, oh, Alexander's this tall, lanky guy, or like height and stuff, but they would never describe like the facial features or something like that. And it always made me wonder why. And I think it's because the actors are method actors. They really were taking over, like the characters were really taking over their roles. And that's how we were supposed to see them as people, because because they were changing so many roles through so many plays, they were adapting to that so closely that they no longer had a personality or visual feature of their own that like reflected them, which I thought was like super interesting that was done. Yeah.
Love that. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, I went through the book and I was like, I know there's like so many parts in the book where they keep talking about their heights or their build and things like that, but never their facial features. Yeah. Even in Caesar, like the actual play, they talk about Caesar's build a lot and focuses on his build as like a giant guy, and then also his authority because of the wars he's won. But never like what, I mean, Shakespeare doesn't really go into what people look like because it's a screen, right? But like it was really cool how M L Rio, like adopted that into the book. If she was going to do Shakespeare reference, it wasn't just like throwing references. It was like really incorporated within the story, which was cool.
One thing I will say I really did like is the fact that with this book, like, yes, it's got all the Shakespearean references and there's a lot of thought and intentional choices that's been made. You don't necessarily need to understand those references to understand the book.
Yeah.
Like, in the sense, like, you can go, like, because I'm not a Shakespeare person. It took me a minute to adjust to the quotation and dialogue. Like, it was a bit of a, oh, okay, this is interesting. But once you kind of got used to it, it was like, oh, this is kind of just how they are and it's part of their personalities, really. But, like, you still understood everything that was going on. I picked up on certain details of the play becoming reality and them reflecting and really going into the method acting without going through and reading them like you did. But, so it's good that, like, both people can enjoy it, because I feel like sometimes when people are very intentional with those type of things and they put all this thought and effort into it, you're supposed to read it with the intention of going through and studying and all those things. So those books can be quite difficult for people who just want to read for enjoyment. They don't want to go in and have all those questions. But this book is really well balanced in the sense you can do either. So you can read it just for the murder mystery. You don't have to overthink it. You can just go in, okay, who's the killer? Who's the victim? What's this? What's that? And you can go through and enjoy that part of it.
Yeah.
And then also, like, there's that element of, Shakespeare through it. Or you can jump into the deep end, like Alicia, and go crazy, study all that intention and understand it and see why they've done that, and it opens up a whole new side of things, which makes it for a really interesting read.
Yeah. No, it definitely opened a huge different side to it that, like, I really enjoyed that aspect of it, because, like, even things like where they would talk about in classes, which is more important, that Caesar is assassinated or that he's assassinated by his intimate friends. And we see how that theory plays out. And that was literally referenced in like the first 2 chapters. And we kind of get told the whole story there, which is just so geniusly put, in my opinion, which I really enjoyed about it. And I also enjoyed like this gets to later acts, but because if you know the story of Macbeth, you know about the ghosts and the hauntings and the going absolutely crazy, and we see that with another character. So it's almost like it's like the pre-readings to a university lecture, that if you read it, the lecture is just like infinitely times more what would the word be? Like, you would be sucked into and immersed into it in a very different lens. But if you just went to the lecture reading, like, you're still going to know what's going on. It's not going to make a difference. Yeah,
for sure. I put that in my review, actually, because I was like, I do I would say I like Shakespeare, but like I don't like know all of Shakespeare. Like I know Romeo and Juliet like quite well, so I really enjoyed that scene later.
Like the things from, like, I feel like it all comes, for me, it all goes back to what we did in school.
Yeah.
So in our schooling, like, we did very much Macbeth and Romeo and Juliet. And I feel that's very common, especially in Australian schools, to do those two in English at some point. So I had, like,
A bit of knowledge.
the kind of the basics you'd get. Because again, like, I'm not a massive Shakespeare person. I honestly used to struggle a lot with the Old English. It was really hard to, especially when it's the whole thing. You kind of like, but, and I probably wouldn't read it again, like try and intentionally read it now. But it's still, as I mentioned, like it's got that good balance. And so you don't need necessarily, it's good to have some kind of reference. If you've never read Shakespeare before, there probably will be a bunch of things you wouldn't pick up on.
Or watch a summary or something like.
Yeah. But if you know the general
or have
story.
A friend who reads Shakespeare like every day.
Yeah.
I don't really like read Shakespeare all the time. It was definitely just because of this book. But it's like, I would read those plays anyway. It just would not have been any time now.
She's the one who reads 7 books to read 1 book.
Well, it was referenced.
No, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think it's awesome that you did that. But it's just like, can't relate.
No, that's fair. Because it's like, it's even with like, okay, this is even with a bit of a tangent, but even with dark romances, there's always a playlist at the start. I listen to the playlist before I read the book.
I love that.
That's actually one thing I really love that authors are doing, is that playlist vibe.
Yeah.
Because like when I write, I have like, I'll have the music on, but then sometimes I'm like, no, I need something particular for this scene. I need like that epic moment to kind of like build with me as I write. And so I love the fact that authors are actually making compilations and being like, this is the book vibe.
Yeah.
Like, this is what you listen to when you read it.
Yeah.
Because it's so fun.
But yeah, same with this. There was a playlist of books.
Yeah, not
And
music books.
I read it. But I didn't read it after. So the point of this book, or I got to this point of the book, and that's when I started to pick up the Shakespeare book, was when they said, which is more important, that Caesar is assassinated or that he's assassinated by his intimate friends. And this was within the classroom, and that was the moment where I was like, okay, I need to read these books, because I feel like there's going to be so many things that are relaying back. And if, for example, like the freaking sparrow on the cover, that's from Macbeth, and I was like, I knew that was from somewhere, but I had no idea it was from Macbeth. And then I read it and I was like, oh, okay.
Do you know what's actually really funny? Because I think both of our copies, they doesn't actually have the sparrow
it doesn't.
picture on there. Yeah. So then when you mentioned that, like, oh, the sparrow on the cover, I was like, the sparrow on the cover, and I looked at the cover and went, oh yeah, that's from Macbeth. I was like, and then I was like, why is that the detail I remember?
Lol.
Because like, there's some things I don't remember at all about Macbeth. I remember vividly the witches. I think that's probably one of the main things a lot of people witches. Well, that too. But I was just like, the random thought, I was just like, oh yeah, that's from Macbeth. And then I went, if that'd been on my cover, I'm like, who would have thought? But because ours doesn't have it, didn't even realise that until you mentioned it.
So I haven't read Macbeth.
What have you done with your copy?
I haven't read Macbeth.
It's a bit parody. I actually don't understand the reference to the cover.
No,
for this cover.
I do. I can tell you.
Is there a?
Because I was like, what is it? So it's the little, at the funeral, it's in the later scene, there's little white flowers. And that's literally the only reference is at the funeral scene.
Are they flat? I thought it was ivy vines, to be fair.
Well, I mean, like, I can't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure there were white flowers in the...
Oh, okay.
The only thing I have to say... Actually, 2 things. Okay, 2 things to say about Act 1 is that it was, like Alicia said, very foreshadowing and kind of spelling out what was going to happen without fully telling you. My quote was this: 4th year, the year of the tragedy. And then what happened? A tragedy happened. Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Literally. So it's
Who would have thought?
Yeah, the book is
slightly on
literally...
the nose.
I really liked that part, that it was very much like they're living. Mm-hmm. They're living basically. Everything that's happening, what they're doing in these plays is what's happening in their life.
Yeah, what's on stage is happening in real life. And that's why the stage and the lake became characters in themselves, because they were serving as like a backdrop for all the pivotal moments. So I saw the lake as literally like a character, because they were taking a walk. Oliver and Detective Colburn were taking a walk around it. And it was like the place where like the tragedy happens, but the setup for the tragedy happens. Yeah. Every moment there was a tragic event, it all ended back at the lake, which was kind of cool.
That is kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah,
full circle moment.
Yeah. My other funny thing, and I thought it was funny, because this book, I would say it was quite a like dark book, as in not terribly so, but it did have heavy themes and stuff. But there were some little moments of humour.
Alexander.
Yeah. And one of them was in Act 1, is that they're obviously studying at this, like, you know, elite school, and Oliver's just, like, casually allergic to the chalk.
Yeah, that was so random.
And I was like, okay, bro. I'm so glad that's mentioned. Like,
Yeah.
okay.
But I feel like the one thing with Oliver, like, it's funny,
Yeah.
but I also feel like Oliver plays this role where he says it a lot himself, but he's like,
The side character, or?
not the side character's the wrong term, but he's like,
Secondary.
everyone is above him, and he's kind of like the bottom.
Mm.
And he's just like, they're better.
But that's
and then
the
just,
whole theme of the
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting because it's like, oh, I'm not the best actor. I get all like the side roles or the minor roles and
Yeah,
whatever,
because
and it
then he
doesn't really
gets-
matter. And then he's like, and he said, I'm allergic to the chalk.
Yeah.
And it's just like things upon
It's
things
just
just
added.
make him like the nerd or like
Yeah.
the dorky
Yeah.
character. And he really pushes into that as well.
Yeah.
Because obviously he probably thinks that about himself
Yeah.
and he always has. And so he really pushes that mark. And it's just one extra thing because nerd characters, they're always allergic to something. And so it's like,
Why
yeah,
not
be
chalk?
allergic to chalk. Also,
Yeah.
something I've never heard of. Who's allergic to chalk?
I don't know. Apparently Oliver.
But
It's so random.
Yeah.
No, that.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's just so random.
Yeah. No, but taking that concept of him being like the side character for every single situation and him not considering himself as one of the main cast people, and James making this comment or like Oliver saying that, James is looking for different roles, like he wants to try different things. And I wonder if like towards like or throughout this book, Oliver had the same kind of idea because of James, because of how much time he spent with James, because of how much he put James on a pedestal, that he thought, I should try out for different characters as well. And instead of doing it through plays, he kind of did that through his real life tragedy. And that's why he was falsely accused, because I think instead of being the side character, he tried to become the savior or the martyr or the person that flips the script and became central to the story and the narrative rather than being secondary.
Yeah, that's a really good
Yeah.
point.
I was just going to say, because this kind of jumps ahead with the acts and stuff, because you said
Yeah, that's fine.
him being falsely accused. But technically he's not falsely accused. He admits to it.
But that's what I'm saying. Like the
So what are you saying, though, is that he's then...
Breaks
but
out
from-
like sacrificing
character.
himself.
He chooses to become the
yeah.
main character.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
after thinking he's been the side character the whole time, he
Yeah,
finally takes
yeah.
that step and turns around and goes, I'm going to be
Exactly
like,
that. Yeah.
let me
A
fall into the
hero.
main
Yeah,
character
and
role.
not accused falsely, but like he did put himself forward when someone
He
else
said,
is the criminal.
I'm the guilty one.
Yeah, and even after that, like he stuck to it and let someone endure the guilt because he says it's out of whether it's like care for that person or love or affection or whatever it may be. I think it was more so because this was his moment, this was his story, this was his tragedy, because he's seen it from his narrative, and that's why he gave himself up. And I think it was about the idea of becoming an important figure within the story, and it was like embedded from Act 1 itself that he heard James say it, and he put James on such a pedestal that he doesn't realize how many times he tries to become like James.
Yeah, and I think also, doesn't James at one point, he tells Oliver, you're better than you think you are.
Yeah.
And he goes, because at some point, I can't remember the exact phrase, but he basically says, you don't realize how captivating you are when you fall into your role. Yeah, it's James that encourages him, because they're talking about, I think it's before the cast list comes out and they're talking about what roles they're going to get. And he's kind of like, I'm going to get what I normally get. And James is like, you might be surprised when you actually try, you fall really well into your characters and you become your character.
Because we also learned that through his growing relationship with one of the girls who is literally like known as the university hottie and like the most popular person and all these things, a girl that he never in his dreams thought he could even be like have a chance with, and this girl is gunning for him towards the throughout the end of this book. So things like that, like I think there were so many moments where he was kind of stepping into his role and getting that confidence, like oh wait, like this does work with me, like I can play these roles, I can jump in the forward cast and the primary cast for the plays. But all these actors had the major issue of not being able to separate stage and reality.
Yeah, true.
So I don't think they cared if the acting was done on stage or within reality, because they do reference the fact that Shakespeare itself was another character within their life story.
Yeah,
And
like,
they didn't see a life outside of it. And it's like one of those things, you know how like people are like, I will be so happy in my life. Like I'll feel like I've achieved everything if I don't know. Yeah,
win the lottery.
Win the lottery, something like that. For them, it's like, I don't care about my future. I don't see anything past like the dramatics of the stage and the story of the tragedy that I want to do. Then that's my life mission and life goal. And that's all they care about. And that's why, like, even though he went to prison for a thing he didn't even do, for a crime he didn't even commit, he was still very content with that, because that was basically like his story, and that's all they've ever wanted, like each one of them almost. Like no one was going after fame. No one like seemed to be going after like not fame, sorry. Like they all wanted to stay true to acting on stage.
Yeah.
They didn't want to like, I'm not going to like go and become like this massive Hollywood star. They actually really cared about the art. Yeah. Which was like very interesting. Yeah. I found that super fascinating.
Yeah, no, definitely. I definitely agree.
Okay, so we finished Act 1, which means, Sarah, we're on to Act 2. If you know how to count.
Oh, okay, cool. I was thinking 6, but nope, 2. Gotcha.
No, it's definitely Act
6 acts.
No, definitely Act 2. So Act 2 officially starts. Finish Act 1. There's definitely a lot more tension happening between the group, all the friends. There's a lot happening. Obviously, the cast list came out, and then all the,
Yeah, so basically the cast
uproar
list came
from
out,
that.
and Richard was the apparition rather than one of the main characters, which kind of was a big punch to his ego.
Yeah.
And that kind of left a lot of tension rising within the group, because he's like this big, bulky, main guy energy sort of bloke.
Yeah.
And he did not get he did not get the part that was very much expected. So I think he just became super
angry,
super difficult to be around.
Because I think, wasn't it with this one, all of their roles kind of got switched around a bit. They were all kind of put in. They've been taken from the norm, because for like, I think for the first 3 years they all pretty much basically fit their stereotypical roles, which they're kind of assigned. So like James generally plays the hero, Richard generally plays like the big bad guy. Yeah. Generally.
Meredith is always like the love interest.
Yeah, like those type of roles. And this is like the first occurrence where things change and everyone's kind of put slightly in different spots, and that really stirs things up. I think most of them are kind of adapt, but this is the real focal point where Richard kind of, you see a massive shift in Richard, and he really he gets angry. Yeah. And as you mentioned, like it's a real kick to his ego. And so the tension just is boiling. Like
it was for the Macbeth play.
Yeah.
So it's not the Caesar play, but the Caesar play sets in stone exactly what's going to happen. Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. No, it's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but literally there's so much tension, and like you can feel it even when reading. But there's especially a tension between Richard and Meredith in particular, who were generally like the love interests.
Yeah, so they're like the very, very on again, off again type of relationship.
Yeah. But they were the only couple that was like formed before this book
like a
started.
pre-established,
Yeah, so they clearly belong together according to everyone else, and
in their cliche roles, they would be together.
They'd be together.
Yep.
So there's all this tension, and then drama with them, and whatever. But this act, plot twist, actually ends. There was like a fight, at the party.
Yeah, so there was so they've done the play. Yeah. They have like an after party, which they generally do after these events.
Yeah. Everyone gets wasted.
Oliver kind of approaches Meredith when she's having a bit of a low point, and their kind of relationship is sparking a bit. Yeah, you can feel this is good tension. The positive tension between them sparking, and things kind of build, and then there's a fight. Richard's ego again takes control, and first time he tried to drown someone, next time he tried to beat the shit out of someone, and so then Meredith goes, "Come on, Oliver," takes him upstairs, and they basically have revenge sex.
Pretty much.
From her perspective, it's revenge sex. Yeah. Oliver's just kind of like, I ain't gonna say no.
Yeah. Like, well, I've been liking this girl for ages.
Like, why would I say no? Yeah. And it kind of was it Richard actually tries to like break down the door.
The door.
Yeah.
They continue to have sex, which is just a little odd.
Why?
But they continue like that. Yeah, so
Yeah.
crazy. Eventually, Richard goes off, and that's kind of that's the end of this. Is it the end of the act?
And
Yeah, at that
then,
point. But yeah, so like this act is like the real build up to like this is like everything's become like out of control,
and it's more out in the open what's going wrong.
Yeah, the splinters between everybody's relationships is kind of appearing.
Yeah.
New ones are forming, old ones are breaking, and it's just become a real shit show. That's the easiest way to explain it.
Yeah, pretty
Big
much.
shit show.
Well, in this act, there was one particular foreshadowing that I thought was super interesting. And this was where Oliver says that James was too spotless to talk of blood and murder, which is why throughout the entire story, I believe Oliver never really saw James in a light that could do any kind of heinous acts. And even when we see this infatuation from Oliver towards James, we also see that James is clearly like playing with someone else's hair, like another girl's hair, and doing these like has these cute casual moments. But Oliver writes it off because he believes this friend group is so tight-knitted and we're seeing everything from his perspective. But as a reader, you're just like, is it because Oliver just doesn't want to see anything negative about James, and how does this unfold as we keep going within the story?
And I think definitely because it's like, well, all these things are happening in the background, and it's like, well, no tragedy has actually occurred yet. Like, we still don't know what's gonna happen, and
it's like this is like the point.
It's a train wreck.
Well, yeah, because
It's
like
a train wreck.
I also remember when starting this book. Generally, I feel like the whodunit happens within the first the
very early
incident
on.
is like pretty quick because that's kind of how you keep someone. It's like something dramatic's happened, death, disappearance, whatever, and so then you spend the entire book going
trying to figure it out.
Okay, who's guilty, who's innocent, like what's happening. But this one, you kind of like it builds and it builds and it builds, and then you're at this point with this second act, you're kind of like, what is going to happen?
Yeah.
Because things are happening with everybody at this point. I will say I called it early on, but and not for the references, but just like I just kind of went,
general.
I think you're gonna die. And it's really leading up, and it's kind of setting up, I suppose, motivations, like what's gonna like points where you're gonna be suspecting people once the tragedy has happened. Like, I think it could be this person for this reason, this person for this reason, this person for this reason. But then also kind of it's also setting up the what do you call it? Alibis.
Yes.
So like this is where this person was at this time, and they were with this other character, and then this person was with this person, and then this person was here, and then because obviously seeing it through Oliver's perspective, his knowledge of where he knew people were at the time, and at the end of the scene, he's obviously upstairs with Meredith in her bedroom,
and he doesn't know what's
doesn't know what's happened after that. So there's this big gap of kind of
time.
What's going to happen? Well, what's happening while he's in this little room living out his own little fantasy, but when everything else is just crumbling
outside
to pieces.
I think with the figuring out who was going to die, I think from chapter, first scene, I was pretty clear on, probably going to be this person. But again, I wasn't sure, maybe we'll do something different. But I will say, to do full 2 acts before we get to the death was a bit dragged out for me. I couldn't really care or get too invested in it, and that's why reading Caesar and stuff really helped, because I was like, oh, now I know exactly who's gonna die, who killed it, what's happening, whose role is what. So
just
it
how
kind
did it
of
happen now?
Can I actually just ask a quick question with that, because I haven't asked this before, because I only just popped in my head now. Do you think though that by reading all those other things at the same time, it kind of spoiled the storyline for you at all?
No, I liked it.
No, you don't feel like it didn't give anything away? Because in
It
my
gives
head,
everything away.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
but in my head, I'm like, for murder mystery, I don't part of the fun for me is working it out, is going through and going, this is this person's alibi, but this person could have done it for this reason, they could have done it this way, and my head runs through those theories like a crazy person.
To be fair,
and so if I had jumped in and read the other things beforehand, and I went, oh well, then that's obvious. That for me
It wouldn't have been
ruins the
good.
fun of a murder mystery.
Yeah, valid.
So it's just
I think, for me, I didn't see this book as a murder mystery. I saw this book as a tragedy.
Yeah.
And that's why I within the first few chapters, I did know who was going to die and I did know who killed it. Even though I was like, oh, maybe they do something different, but the most obvious ones are this one.
Yeah.
I did not see this book as a murder mystery, even though it's characterized that, but I don't think that is the correct label for it anyway.
Yeah.
I think the correct label for it is tragedy.
It's a tragedy.
Yeah.
I get you.
Yeah.
Which
And
fits
that's
with
why-
Shakespeare.
Yeah, it does.
does.
And that's why I also think that the whole point of this book wasn't, for me at least, to try to figure out who did it or why they did it or something. It was more so to understand the characters and their motivations and what the consequences were of the one particular action they took, and how that kind of guilt set in on them, or did each one feel guilt, or how they dealt with that kind of trauma to the situation at hand. So that's why in my head I did not care to figure out who did it, and that's why, like, even if it's ruined for me, like, it didn't matter, because that was not why I was reading it anyway. I was trying to figure out, not trying to figure out, sorry, I was trying to learn more about the characters themselves, because this was very much a character driven story, laced with Shakespeare.
Something we love, character driven.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So that's why, so I think in that sense it didn't ruin it for me, because reading it, if anything, added so much more nuance for it, because I would read characters, like, it's not just Julius and Brutus, and I can't remember the rest of the characters' names, but every other character in it, and the intimate friends, you could place it, oh, that's Ren, oh, that's Philippa, oh, that's Alexander.
Yeah.
And you kind of understand, because, like I said, like, we don't have an actual personality of any of these characters as themselves as humans, and we attach, like, the Shakespeare roles that they play as their personality for, like, that duration. So it was interesting to say, oh, like, Oliver sees it as this because he's this character in this play, but technically if this guy is this character, they're plotting this stuff behind the scenes. But then, like, there were parts where, like, the murderer was getting visions of the dead person and, like,
The ghosts and whatnot,
the ghosts. And that's, like, so Macbeth coded, like, that was, like, such a perfect reflection of it. And I just thought that, like he was getting dreams or nightmares, but in Macbeth, it's like the actual ghost comes and they're, like, telling the whole story and, like, this is going to happen and that's going to happen and you should be aware of doing this, but things like that. And that would, like, send that character into spiraling, and we see the same happen here. So I think it was, like, a very different I did not see it as, like, a classic Murder on Orient Express kind of situation.
No.
Yeah.
I was going to say, ready, I'll take over for a second.
Yeah, go.
I read it completely differently, which is also fine.
Yeah.
But I probably a bit closer to Sarah. And it was that, okay, so there's a tragedy that happens. Someone's probably going to die. Who dies and who did it? So from the very start, I made little notes on my phone. No, like, I literally put all the character names, and I was like, okay, well, and because the flash forward, I mean, I don't know how to explain how it works, but there's, like, there's the present, which is
after Oliver's been released.
Yeah, which is when Oliver's talking to the detective. And I was like, okay, so Oliver clearly doesn't die. And I was like, okay, so tick, he lives.
He's safe. Unless the supernatural element, he comes back to life.
It could be an interesting plot twist.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, Oliver is alive, and then he gets picked up from the prison by Philippa, and I was like, okay, she's alive too. And so I literally went, like, character by character, because that present is only once per act. It's, like, at the very start. And so I was like, okay, so who's still alive? Has someone, like, who's died? And it kind of wasn't revealed in the present until way later.
Yeah.
And
The
then-
present, that's one thing I actually liked about the present scenes, is it gave you little hints of things, little, like here's a little bit of this, here's a little bit of that, but it didn't give anything away until it was confirmed in the rest of the scenes. And actually, like, went solidified, like, this person's right.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Philip is, I think, the only one that you kind of get a little bit early on that kind of gives you that confirmation that, like, okay, she's clearly not, you know.
Yeah.
But then I also feel like with Philippa's, her name, I struggle to say. I keep wanting to call it Flipper. Philippa?
Like a swimming slipper.
Yeah. Philippa, she's her, I suppose, role in the whole story is so different.
Yes.
Yeah.
She has a very, like, obviously Oliver sees her in a particular way, but she's also, like, the least affected with everything, I feel.
Yeah, she's not as, I would say she's not involved in the, she's not involved.
Well, like, she
I don't
is
know.
involved, but I suppose, like, I think at one point even she mentioned to herself, she's like, I'm always kind of forgotten about.
I guess.
You don't agree?
No, I don't. But go on.
No, I was just saying because I
Yeah.
feel like there's a point.
Sorry, I don't know why I reacted to that without realizing I'll have my chance to react to it later. But go.
No, it's like I was just like because it just like again, it's been a little bit since I read it, so I don't remember exactly. But I feel like there's just parts where she's kind of like she mentioned she was just like, oh, you know, I'm always just in the background. No one ever really thinks about me here.
Because she played a lot of male roles as well.
Well, yeah,
It's
that
not like she was
too.
really herself.
Yeah.
Maybe that's also
Yeah.
it.
But she's a very closed off character as well. Because I think Oliver mentions more than once that they don't know anything about her family, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's not, even after 3 years of knowing each other, like they don't even know where she's from, really. Like,
yeah,
I
or
think,
anything about it.
no, she's very, very like, keeps
I'm
it
here
divided.
now and
But yeah. But like with the murder mystery aspect of it, I suppose it is more of, it's not your standard murder mystery.
No.
This is not like, yes, it's got the murder mystery elements, but it's a lot about a lot more.
Yeah.
It is
yeah.
like obviously because of all the Shakespeare and stuff. Like it's M L Rio very could have easily just written about a bunch of kids who love Shakespeare, and one of them died. Like she could have very easily done that, but she's put a lot of work into the symbolism and the meaning behind it all, so it doesn't necessarily translate as your standard. Doesn't translate to like the standard murder mystery.
Yeah.
So, but I still think you can still enjoy it as just a murder mystery, which I think we did.
And it's plotted very differently, which is why I enjoyed it. 'Cause
Yeah.
I was like, who died and who is alive?
I do agree though with Alicia the fact it felt like a really long time to get into the actual murder mystery.
Yeah.
And because in my head, murder mystery head right, I was like waiting. Okay, who's gonna die? Who's gonna die? When's
Yeah.
coming? When's coming? Got to end Act 1. Nothing.
So
Okay, got to
Yeah.
Act 2. Nothing.
Nothing.
I was just like, hello, someone died already.
But it actually did happen in Act 2, but we just didn't know about it.
yeah.
No, okay, but I suppose the reveal of it
Yeah.
didn't happen until Act 3,
But like
and that's
first
the
few
midpoint.
pages, but
Yeah.
So it's like literally this book's more of like the first half is the setup, and then
Yeah.
the second half is actually this is what happened
The
up
event.
until the arrest.
Yeah. Well, I think like after reading Act 1 and No One Died, I was like, okay, this might not be a murder mystery. And that's why I read the back of it. And it was like the person who like gave a review on it was like, this is a rare and extraordinary novel, a vivid rendering of the closed world of a conservatory education, a tender and harrowing exploration of friendship, and a genuinely breathtaking literary thriller. So that's when my brain shifted to, okay, we're talking about friendships. This is going to explore characters, and literary thriller, meaning tragedy, because it's all Shakespeare. What other literature is here?
And they're studying tragedies.
Yeah. And then it goes into the blurb, and the third paragraph ends with, in this secluded world of firelight and leather-bound books, Oliver and his friends play the same roles on stage and off. Hero, villain, tyrant, temptress, ingenue.
I don't know what that word is.
And extra. That's why I was searching up what.
Sorry, I couldn't see it
okay, yeah.
No, that's fine. Anyway, and speaking of Philippa, I think, because when I read that, that's when I was trying to place which character is what. Who's the hero, who's the villain, who's the tyrant, who's the temptress, who's the ingenue, whatever, however you say that. And that was Philippa, because Philippa's whole role in my understanding was the balance. She was the one who knew the murderer and who knew who did the murder from the very start.
She did.
But the reason she didn't let that murderer confess wasn't to protect the murderer. It was to protect Oliver. Throughout the book, or towards the end of the book, she made this comment, quite emphasized this comment that the reason, because I know exactly how you are. She said this to Oliver, that I know exactly how you are, and I knew that you would take the fall. And that's exactly what happened. So she was the balance, and even towards the very end, she was the one to give Oliver the letter from the actual murderer, and set those motions. She was the carrier, almost like without her, things would not have happened the way they happened. Without her, the story would not have worked forward. And the meaning of ingenue in plays is a stock character, typically a young, innocent, and naive female character, often portrayed as charming and delicate. Well, and I take that as like, because Oliver always saw her as like just a girl, just the person there. We don't really know anything about her. She's just a stock standard person.
Kind of like an inconsequential character.
Almost. But actually she has this entire like like narrative to her, and she was like the driving force between the characters. Like with like you would always see her every single place. Like Meredith and Richard, something is happening, she's there. You see Ren and Philippa, something's happened, she's there. Ren is passing out, she's there. James and Alexander are having an argument, she's there. Oliver, to save Oliver, she's there. She's there at every point. The only time she wasn't there was when Oliver had the conversation with the murderer and then put himself to took the fall. And that was the one moment where I was like, she's not there. And that's where the balance got unbalanced, which I thought was super interesting for her character. So I grew to appreciate and really understand her character in the last act, I'm pretty sure, or like the epilogue or whatever went after Oliver was released. And I thought that was pretty interesting. Yeah, that was my interpretation of Philippa.
No, that's fair.
Actually, that's really good.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
really
I
good
agree with you.
because like she definitely she plays a role you don't see.
Yeah,
I feel like
But she's
unless you're
still
looking
playing
for it,
Yeah.
you don't. Because she felt more like she really felt like more of a side character.
Yeah.
She was very like if you're not looking for it, like I feel like this is a good way to explain it, but like. I became really wrapped up in Oliver, like what's happening with Oliver. And I suppose more the people he's interacting with more and more often, which would be Meredith and then James and then also Richard. And so like you kind of almost a little bit, not like forget about her, but like nothing dramatic is really happening with her.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes you go like, you don't realise how much of a crucial part she's really playing until you think about it like that.
Yeah.
And then you go, she actually had a really massive role.
Yeah.
But because, I guess, again, Oliver's an unreliable narrator, you don't know that until the end.
Yeah,
And then you kind of go...
But we do see it throughout the final play they had, I think that was King Lear, where Meredith is no longer the hot temptress.
Yeah.
She is actually a man. And that's usually Philippa's role. That's where I was like, the balance is shifting. The narrative is shifting. The characters are shifting. It's no longer what it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Even though in the first one, like, Richard's character wasn't what it was supposed to be. Everyone else was still pretty much in line with what they were supposed to be. It was Richard that got like an ego inflation. That's what happens in Caesar, like the actual play. Well, the reason Brutus being his close friend and his intimate friends want to or kill Caesar is because they're like, Caesar's not going to be fit for rule even though he won all these wars because his ego is just too big and he's going to be a tyrant and all these things. And that's how that's exactly how it unfolded for Richard. So I started to get interested in all the characters like in that last play because it was finally like they were all stepping out of what they always do and they were playing like Oliver was in the lead role again and James was in a lead role and Meredith was a guy and I'm like that's always what Philippa does. Ren is renning on the other side. Somewhere. Ren is Richard's cousin, FYI. So
yeah, true.
Yeah, she has moments.
I just wanted to mention because I think this book did really well to explain the characters and what was happening for them.
Yeah.
And so there was that conflict between James and Richard in their roles and how Richard was so mad at James and he was they were acting but he was grabbing him and
he was abusive.
Yeah.
He was abusing.
He was doing it to all of them though by the end.
Yeah. Hold on, that's my point.
Sorry,
No,
got my head there.
You were right. That's my point. Is that he was abusing them and leaving bruises, but it was kind of like they didn't really talk about it. And so he was obviously abusing James on stage in his role, but also
he was method acting.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But go on.
But then But then when Oliver sleeps with Meredith, I think there's literally the quote, and she was every bit as bruised as James, and that he it wasn't noticeable because it was all under her clothes. Yeah. And I was like, bro, I had so much rage reading that.
Yeah.
Just that reaction to be like, oh my gosh, it's not just the boys. Not saying all boys are strong, but they were strong boys in this book.
Yeah.
It's he's actually abusing his girlfriend who he loves.
Super possessive about.
I was like, that just made me so angry.
Yeah. And it's all because of his ego.
Yeah.
I had, before this whole, the parallels with the plays and the ego thing, in my head, when I saw the shift in Richard's behaviour, my head went to, because, again, wasn't really thinking about the parallels, more of, okay, he's starting to act out, which means something else is going on to have triggered him. And in my head, I was like, what's going on at home? Does he have an abusive father? Like, because generally abusive, like, it becomes a cycle.
Yeah.
So if a child is abused, they can, not always, but they will grow up and they can also become an abuser and around. So then my head started going through this whole thought spiral of, oh, there's going to be all this more complicated stuff, and maybe Rich is not actually going to, like, you know, like, maybe there's all this other stuff that's going to happen. And then, no, that wasn't even close. And I really went on a spiral and went, okay, I need to reel that back in. And then once I kind of understood more of the parallels, I went, not this type of book. Like, completely off wing there. But it just... But yeah, like the whole thing with him being like, you know, you don't realize what's going on behind outside of Oliver's point of view, which goes back to his, obviously his perspective on everything. He doesn't realize that until that scene that's been happening with Meredith. All you know is that they've been having relationship troubles and that they've argued, but you don't know about all the physical stuff that's happening afterwards. And I think that also kind of sets off, like, more of the tension, because once he's find out that's happened, well, then that's kind of like another flag of like
Richard a bit.
I will say on that point of Oliver and Meredith sleeping together and him noticing the bruises, and he makes that exact, like you said, the quote, like similar to James. That was the point for me when I realized, okay, he loves James, because he only saw the bruises on Meredith within this intimate scene. So it was clearly on locations where it's like intimate to a partner, and he knows these wounds on James quite closely. And I knew that this was definitely like a more free with your body kind of a book, but it was only between these two that I saw that from the start, and I was like, it's setting up for something between these two.
And interesting that it linked them like that, because I didn't clock that literally till the book said that he liked James. I was like, what?
I had a couple moments. I took notes at different points, and I went, James is clearly gay for Oliver. And then I went, oh, hang on. And I got to another point and went, maybe not. Maybe Oliver is just gay for James. and then I was kind of like, I wasn't certain. I was like, am I just picking up on a vibe that's not there? Like, is this just my head? But I think it's not meant to be clear. It's supposed to be, because obviously they're confused. They don't even understand what they're feeling. And it takes them pretty much the whole book to kind of get together what they're actually thinking and feeling. So, like, it's not supposed to be clear, and it is just supposed to be like another one of those hints, like hint, something's going on.
I actually saw it as like further than that. I didn't even see their relationship as like gay love at all. I saw it like transcended that, because I don't think they know each other's personality the way they expect each other to know a person. I think they were so engrossed in like their roles, because they've only known each other in the context of university and playing roles. Like, even their secret like balls and all these like prom situations that happen, it's again like they're playing secret roles, and you're trying to figure out what this other person is playing and what role they're given. So things like that. So I think it was like this admiration that Oliver had for James, and likewise James had for Oliver, rather than being love, because I don't think he loved him or Meredith, to be honest. I think it was like this strong infatuation of what they represent to Oliver was something so special and so dear, that he was so attracted to it, and he was so engrossed by it. And that's why, like, even when they have like stage plays and stuff, like there was descriptions where like Oliver's like literally at the edge of his seat, like watching these two people perform, because he's so taken into the story, as all of those characters are. So I don't think that those characters experience love or affection the same way as normal people do anyway. I couldn't see, like, because I read one of the Goodreads reviews for this one, because I was trying to find sassy 1-star reviews, and one of them was like 1 star, not gay enough. And I was like, but it wasn't supposed to be. And I'm like, I can't put this in because I'm just going to rage on about it. But it was one of those situations where I was like, like that when they were sleeping together, I was like, oh, why would he only know the bruises that are similar to James? Like, why would he make that parallel during this intimate scene with Meredith? Like, who is having sex with a girl and thinking about the best friend?
True.
You know?
True.
No, it's fair.
All right, shall we move to Act 3?
This is when it gets good.
After 1, after 2 comes 3. Hey! So
Math.
That's how maths works. So we are now on to Act 3 of If We Were Villains. And this act, I say, is where that tragedy really happens and we get revealed.
Yeah.
It's finally happened.
Dun, dun,
Finally.
dun. And the tragedy happened to
Richard!
Oh, Richard.
the dude.
I didn't realize I was the one going to say it.
No, that was not him. I was like, someone say it. No one said it.
Got it. Because she also pointed like this, and I was like, oh, me.
Yeah. So
The real tragedy.
Yep. So Richard's dead.
Richard dies.
Not
How does-
really.
how does
but
Richard die?
Kind of.
Okay. Okay. Well, what leads to Richard's
Okay.
death?
So Richard is found in the lake and he's half dead, kind of floating around, still kind of making like some little gurgly noises. And I think, is it Alexander found him?
Yes.
And so then kind of gets everybody somehow, I can't remember. And then they all go to the lake and see him in the lake and they're like, oh, what do we do? And this is my quote, ready? This is from Oliver. So I wanted him, he's talking about I wanted James and the others unhurt and unafraid more than I wanted Richard alive, and we couldn't have both anymore. So so they're all kind of sitting there looking at Richard in the lake, and Oliver's like,
Can I just
what do we
add to
do?
that?
Yeah.
Richard is awake. He's
yeah,
alive
true.
in the water, basically going, "Help me!" And they're all kind of just going, "What do we do?
Yeah.
Like, do we? Do we not? Do we? Do we not?" And they literally just are standing there while he's like half drowning,
Yeah.
begging for help, which I think is what makes it so horrific.
Yes.
Like, not only has someone attacked him,
Yeah.
but he's still alive technically. Like, he's
Yeah.
not dead yet.
Yeah.
And I remember reading that, going,
Oh.
oh, like, and also like instinctual. Like, I think it's Oliver instinctually goes like, we need to help him, and then it's kind of
He
like,
thinks about it and goes,
no,
oh.
and then someone stops him and goes, no, wait, we need to think about this.
Yeah. And then
Is that what you're
Richard's
looking
there,
up?
like, dying.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure.
It was Oliver
But I'm pretty sure
No.
he died before they actually got in the water.
Yeah, no. So Oliver was the. So they did end up. They basically all agreed,
We're not gonna do it.
we're not going to save him, and then someone needed to confirm that he was dead, and then Oliver was like, "I'll do it." And so he
Oliver
actually
gets in the water.
gets in the water, swims over to finally dead Richard, and goes, "Yeah, he's dead."
Yeah.
And it's just was it? Was Oliver the one that was going to jump in?
To remember.
Yeah. Go on.
And this is a point I made in my notes, but I
Yeah.
can't find it right now.
That's alright. If you remember.
So, as summarized, Richard is in the lake. His neck is bent at a weird angle. He obviously needs medical attention ASAP. And you can see he's still alive, but yeah, the six friends now decided to
They went down to 6.
not intervene. And the reason being because they were just tired of his tyrannical,
Just tired of his tyranny.
friendship or lack of it, or just the abuse
true.
everyone was feeling. And this was the moment in the book where I was like, oh, where
But interest is piqued.
where James, Alexander's voice, shrill and frantic, pierced through the gloom. Oliver, grab him. This is what Alexander says. And Oliver continues, I stumbled into a sprint, feet pounding on the wet planks, seized by the senseless fear that James would throw himself into the water and let Richard drag him under. So the
that's
reason
right.
Oliver ran first was not because I need to save Richard. It was because he's seen James in this innocent, beautiful light throughout this book, where he's like, James is going to go sacrifice himself because he's like this small, lanky dude. He's never going to be able to pull Richard out, but he's such a selfless human being. He has to go and save Richard, and that's going to kill him. And that was the moment that I was like, whoa, I feel like we know who the killer is or whatever.
And also that.
And I loved that part. Yeah, go.
That ties back to when Richard's trying to drown James in the lake.
Well, yeah, because I was
Yeah.
like, you've already tried to kill him once. What would stop you from trying to kill him again?
Exactly.
Yeah. And wait. Yeah, and it goes on. Oliver yells, James. And then my fingers scraped off the back of his jacket, closed on nothing. Stop! I made one more reckless grab and caught him clumsily around the waist. He lost his balance and pitched forward with a cry of surprise, For one terrible moment, the water rushed up to meet us, but just as I gasped to go under, James slammed into the dock chest first, and I crashed down on top of him. And it made me wonder if possibly, and this might ruin the ending of the book, if possibly James was running to save Richard or to make sure that he was dead.
Well, I think we can just reveal. We don't need to hide who it is.
No.
So basically, James is technically the killer.
Yeah.
So during the night after Oliver and Meredith were locked away having their little rendezvous, Richard storms off. He storms off into basically the wood section near where they are
Near
housed.
the lake.
Near the lake.
There's like a boathouse.
And
Yeah.
I don't remember.
It's a boathouse. There's a boathouse. That's where he gets the...
Well, yeah, but basically, but Richard goes off.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
as he's leaving, Ren, obviously Richard's cousin, who's just like, no, don't leave, please stay, like, don't do something stupid. He's just kind of like, get stuff, shoves Ren away, hurts her, and James is like, oh, no, I'm not letting that go.
Yeah.
You can't treat her like that, and goes after him. And so their conflict ensues, they butt heads and they fight, and James hits Richard across the head, I think it is, with a hook or something. I can't remember what he uses exactly.
Thing, which is hook.
Yeah, it was purely just in the moment. He whacks him over the head, knocks him into the water, and then just goes, I've killed him, and leaves. And then hours later, Alexander, out for a little bit of a smoke, finds him and then goes running for everybody.
Yeah.
And so
More
then
importantly, before James got back to the hostel, he bumps into Philippa.
yes.
Who
Also, yes, I forgot
knows
about
the
that part.
entire story.
Yeah.
And was the one to say to the friends, what was the phrase that she uses? I'm gonna find it. Phrase.
But yeah, so James ends up back at the house, and then it's from Oliver's perspective, he doesn't know that James even left. He doesn't even know Richard's left at that point.
Yeah.
He's still in the room with Meredith.
Yeah.
He does wake up in the middle of the night, though, at one point. At this point, James is back, and he's having a shower.
James is throwing up in the bathroom.
That's right, yeah, he's throwing up. And Oliver goes into, I think, just go to the bathroom or something. He does something, and they kind of run in, and it's a really awkward scene.
Yeah.
Because Oliver's like, something's not right. It's like, what? Like, and he's just kind of thinking, from what I remember, he's kind of just thinking at the time that James is just like drunk. He's just vomiting because he's drunk too much or something like that.
Rage apart.
Yeah, but also, like, James was drunk and all that happened. Like, I know he regrets it and he felt a lot of guilt throughout this book. But literally after they found the body, he does say, let me go, James said, half trying to push me off, let me go. And then Alexandra is like, no, you're going to do something crazy, just wait a minute. And he goes, we can't wait, he's dying. And then he goes on to say, we can't just stand around arguing about how it happened, we have to do something. So he was already overtaken with guilt to like a really high degree, because clearly he didn't care about the consequences that would happen if Richard survived. He just wanted to save Richard.
Yeah, because the act, again, was not premeditated. It was really just another moment where James and Richard got into a fight and James fought back for the first time. I feel like he's never really fought back initially. The other times, like the drowning, like when Richard tried to drown him in the lake, he fought back, but like in the sense he was just trying to save himself. He wasn't trying to harm Richard. But in this particular circumstances, he was like, if I don't strike first, I'm dead.
Yeah.
So it was very much just self-defense in the moment. Him running off and leading Richard to drown in the lake obviously
It's
makes
something different.
It's a choice. But yeah, immediately he's just he regrets everything he does, and that starts to eat at him. And for the rest of the acts, his character starts to crumble.
Yeah.
And he goes down this spot. He falls off his perch pretty much. The hero perch he's kind of placed on.
Gone.
He really just boop, falls off.
Yeah, pretty much. But this act kind of had a lot of... So obviously Richard dies. I'm pretty sure the funeral is in this act. And then it's about how all the characters deal with their grief.
Yeah. So
and
kind of
then
like...
how they comfort each other in their grief as well.
Yeah. So we have Richard's death. The group find him... Also, Richard's attacked. The group find him, basically choose to do nothing.
Yeah.
Let him drown. He dies. And then it goes back to basically, the funeral, them all kind of being told to have some time off. There's like a school
they
break
go
in there.
home, Yeah.
Yeah, like they're gone for like a week. And this is our first glimpse also into the characters' home lives and what it's like. And we also learn that Oliver has a really crap home life. They all pretty much, none of them really have a good home life to go back to.
Some of them about in his family.
Not at all. His sisters, he's got 2 younger sisters and they've got their problems. One of them, I think she's anorexic or she is. And so they're suffering with that, and his parents are kind of like tell him, oh, we're going to pull you out of school to use your tuition to pay for her medical bills and stuff. Basically. And he's just kind of like, no.
He's like, I'm in my last semester. Like can you just let me finish?
Yeah, type of thing. And so everything, I think, after this point, like their lives, everything's crumbling in their lives now. Literally. And it's just, it becomes like, it's a massive mess. And then on top of all of their lives just being mentally screwed, they're having to deal with the fact that someone attacked Richard. Most of them didn't know who it is. And then, but they're also all compliant in his death because they sat there and watched him drown. And then they're having to also stick to a story which they all agree upon. This is what's happened. This is what we're going to tell. And it's basically the whole thing is like, as long as no one says anything,
we'll be fine.
We're all fine.
And we all have no issues, and we've been friends the entire time. Yeah.
And we all know how well that works out.
Not very well.
It doesn't. Because someone always cracks, and multiple people are cracking at this point. Ren goes through, like, she's probably the most destroyed out of all of them. Yeah. Because obviously he was actually her family. Yeah. Cousin, like they grew up together. They've known each other their whole lives, and she literally...
she has a part that she played in this.
Yeah. Even though technically she's not like... wasn't like James. She didn't strike Richard or cause his death, but like in that sense, but she was still like, guilty of allowing him to die.
Yeah.
Choosing, along with the rest of them, to let him drown.
Yeah.
And so she's going through her whole thing. And then James, which at this point we don't know that he's guilty, is like fully like having a meltdown in behind the scenes. Yeah. But Oliver's kind of also... I feel like Oliver's a little bit oblivious to what's really going on with James sometimes. Probably. Like he knows something's wrong, but he's just attributing it to the fact
everyone's going through it.
That they've all watched Richard die. Yeah. He does not clock in the slightest that I remember that James could have ever done something like that. And he just thinks, James is suffering like all of us. He's conflicted like all of us. Not realizing James is actually going through the whole point of, I killed somebody.
Yeah, it's my fault.
It's all my fault, and there's nothing I can do to change it.
Yeah. And
his whole, like, character is probably, like, he's questioning himself. He's this hero character he's always played. Well, he's not the hero at all. He's actually technically the bad guy in this scenario. But yeah.
So how do you guys see it? Do you see it as James is the murderer, or they're all the murderer?
Oh.
So, technically... they're all complicit in one way. Yeah. Because they all chose, look, it's very possible they could have called an ambulance and Richard may have survived, but it's also very unlikely he didn't survive at all. But the fact is, I think none of it was premeditated in that sense. So I think they're kind of just all a victim of the situation, and it would have maybe felt like an impossible situation. Obviously I can never say. I've never watched someone drown before or been in that situation. So it's like you would never really know how you would react. And I think after everything they've been through, it's not necessarily like, I wouldn't call them a murderer. I'd say they're a victim of their circumstances.
Fair.
Yeah.
But technically... But James would technically be considered... I would consider James the murderer because he's the one who... his actions brought about Richard's death. Like, if he'd never struck Richard, it never would have happened. None of them would have been in that situation. Yeah. But technically, I still see them all as victims of their circumstances.
Right.
I agree with that. But also, I think the book has very much set up Richard as... like, he is a villain to the group. Yeah. And so it's like, oh, well, he almost deserves it. Not that I'm saying he deserved to die, but it's like he deserved and he got what was coming to him. And so, like, I think what you said was good. Like, as in, if James hadn't, like, hit him, like, it wouldn't have happened. So I do think he is the most guilty. Yeah. And if anyone were to go to jail, it wouldn't be Oliver, it would be James.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What
that's
do
what I
you
think.
think?
Go on.
A little bit different. I do see the rest of them as murderers, including James, but not James for the reason of being the one who killed physically, like physically hurt Richard, because I can't say James killed Richard because James didn't kill Richard. What killed Richard?
The lake did.
Yeah, no, but it was more so in my head. It's separated as James and Richard had a conflict. Richard had him strangled. He was going to die. It was just happenstance. There was a boat hook there that James used to defend himself. He did not premeditate the murder. He did not plan to kill Richard. He was simply defending himself, and Richard died as a consequence. Obviously, he went back to his hostel. He's throwing up and whatnot, and then he goes, and then Alexander finds the body, and they all go downstairs. But that was
Premeditated.
Thank you. Because all of them actively decided to let him die. They know that he is going to die as a consequence of not bringing the ambulance. Like, sure, bringing the ambulance or bringing help might not save his life, but that's not the point. They planned.
They chose.
Yeah, they actively chose to let him die. Even though it was just like, we didn't like stab him or anything, but that doesn't make sense. Like, you still chose to let him die. It's like saying like, oh, I can see Sarah drinking soup with poison in it. I'm just not going to say anything, but that's just me killing you because I know this is going to kill you. That kind of thing. So my head,
no, I get that. Yeah.
In my head, it was definitely all of them were murderers, but not because of the actual action of James
Murder.
killing, or hurting. Or but it, like, yes, it sets the chain of events, but the chain of events wasn't set because of James. It was actually set because of Richard. He was the one almost strangling James to death. It was between James and Richard who survives, and James got lucky.
Much.
There was no way James would have survived that in a normal day and age.
No, not at all.
Yeah, because if James had just like admitted to what he'd done, it would have been seen as self-defense or manslaughter.
Yeah, and that's correct. Like, the only reason he didn't say anything was because Philippa stopped him, and she said, nothing happened. Go back to your room. Just go sleep. Just rest. Because she was like, she probably didn't like, no one liked Richard at that point.
Yeah.
But Philippa made that decision. It wasn't to protect James, it was to protect Oliver. And that's how I saw it. I think, again, like, Philippa was the balance, the mediating tool, what caused the entire flip of the script there. Because
do you think James, if he'd never run into Philippa at all, do you think James would have just turned around eventually and gone, it was me?
I think in the morning he would have.
Yeah.
After the
would have come back
and
and gone, I need to.
And who would he have told?
100%.
Probably Oliver.
And because Philippa had
said,
because Philippa had said before itself that don't tell anyone, that's why in the room when he's throwing up, like, he didn't say anything to Oliver. And that's why, like, this is the line that I found was really interesting, because Philippa was the one when they were deciding, like, oh, we're not gonna say anything to the detectives, and the line she used was, so he gets asked by Detective Colburn, tell me about the last few weeks. You've all been under a lot of pressure. Richard, maybe most of all. Was he behaving strangely? And Oliver's answer is no, I said. Philippa's words echoed softly in my head. Before last night, everything was fine, and every single character said that to Detective Colburn. Before last night, everything was fine. And it was, again, like, everyone wanted to say something, but they didn't know what they needed to say or what they should say, so they just followed Philippa's lead, and she was, like, the catalyst for the story to go the direction it did. That's why I, like, really enjoyed her character, like, when I was writing my notes, and I was like, you were literally the player of the game.
And no one knew.
Honestly, I didn't, like, it took, as I mentioned earlier, it took me a while to pick up on the role that Philippa was really playing. It's not, like, if you're not really seeing it initially, I think, like, it's not as glaring obvious. But I also don't think it's meant to be obvious necessarily. But who knows? But I find it very interesting how we all see it slightly differently. But because I really do, like, obviously, I feel like if Richard hadn't gone off the deep end, not that there is any justification for those actions or anything, but if Richard hadn't gone off the deep end, started abusing people, basically terrorizing them,
his friends,
supposedly,
apparently,
obviously that situation between them never would have happened. And so, like, it's just, as I meant, like, when I say, like, they're a victim of the events that have happened, it's because, like, you know, obviously if things had been different, They would have, because there was no premeditation. It was purely just reaction.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until that point where Philippa was trying to protect.
Yeah.
Obviously, she's trying to do the best thing to keep her friends safe because that's her goal.
Yeah.
But I do find it, I like seeing the different views we have on
No,
those type
I
of
was pretty much
situations.
like when that was happening in front of the lake, my reaction was immediately, no, that's murder. But also because of my profession, like we know omission is equivalent to blame.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
you just because you hold something back doesn't mean you're not equally charged.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Well,
Act 4.
Yeah.
ready?
Act
Can I
four.
have one final thought?
Oh, yeah,
Only
sure, of course.
because I actually didn't clock that it was James. Was the murderer until later, like very late in this book, and I was tossing up between it's Alexander or it's James, and the reason I didn't know is because Oliver was like, oh, clearly, like everything was fine before tonight, and just like sticking to that. But then we find out that Alexander, who I think he was in a room by himself, he's doing drugs,
He's
and
got a drug problem.
He's got a drug problem, but also he's been hooking up with this other guy from a different year or whatever, and it's like, oh well, if he could keep that a secret from everybody, what other secrets are people keeping? And so Oliver was like, oh, Alexander's acting weird, he's doing weird stuff, something's going on. And I was like, oh, maybe it's Alexander. And then it turns out no, he's just doing drugs. And I was like, I mean, that doesn't
point though.
Doesn't mean he didn't kill him, but also
it was one of the elements that that M L Rio has used to try and give that misdirect of the whole thing. Like any one of them
could have done it.
Could have been responsible. It will except Oliver because we know from Oliver's perspective what he was doing. But
true.
So like it could have been anyone because it could have been Meredith. She could have snuck out while Oliver was asleep. He wouldn't have known. It could have been Ren. Because we don't know what Ren was doing. It could have been Philippa. Not that I don't think anyone ever thought anyone would think Philippa would have had anything to do with it.
Not really.
But everyone's motive was set up in the first two acts that everyone could have been.
Yeah, there was everyone had a reason to basically want Richard dead.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I went in my head from I think it was Act 1 and Act 2 is kind of when I solidified my idea. One, that Richard was going to die. Mainly, I think that's also got to do because I wanted him to die because he was being a dick. And I was, that's not a name pun, by the way. That's just intentional. He was being a dick. So I was like, I kind of want you to die, so I feel like you're going to die. But then I was kind of like, James feels too, like they pushed the hero thing. And I was like, everyone loves a fallen hero. So I feel like I really felt like that's where it was going to go. And it's what happened. But also, it did have me at some points. Well, before we had that like solidified, yes, it was him. I was kind of like, maybe it was Alexander. I'm like, or maybe Oliver's really just pulling something over our eyes.
I was worried about that too.
I did have that thought, but then I was also kind of like, while he's unreliable in that sense, why, if he was actually guilty, like there would be like no point in this whole thing. If he'd actually been responsible, like if he'd actually been the one who'd struck Richard, why would it be all this sing and dance with the detective about what actually happens? Like it felt...
And you need to know the whole story.
Yeah, like he would have just been like, nah, I did it for this reason. Like there would have been no umming and ahhing. But as we get into Act 4, where basically the investigation, I suppose, happens, I feel like Act 4 is mainly about the investigation.
I was looking for it. I was like, this isn't another law book.
Where the actual person who's Pop we're reading the book from, they actually know everything,
but aren't telling you.
Yeah, they act like they don't know anything.
I was worried.
Until, like, the random last chapter.
Yeah, there's no
like,
shield to forget about. But that's moving us into Act 4 when we do jump into, I suppose, the detective things. When we meet Detective Colburn in the past with his partner, and they come in and question everybody, and it kind of basically, Colburn's kind of comes along and is like, something like, okay, everyone believes the story you guys are playing out.
It's an accident.
But something's quite not right. Something's not sitting right. Which moves us into Act 4.
Yeah.
So just before we move on there, I had just like one more point on the front that Alexander could have been the one who did it, and it was because we're seeing it from Oliver's point again. Like I mean, I knew he had done it because of like the Caesar cast from the start, but it was more so seeing like to the extent to which Oliver keeps putting James on a pedestal. So he could not, like, because he did not see James as someone who would do something, like he calls him spotless in this book. That's why, like, I think that he was honing in on Alexander. And that's why, as a reader, we were honing in on Alexander, because we were only seeing it from Oliver's POV.
That's true.
But it's just simply because he just didn't see James could do anything wrong. He just didn't see that.
He was a hero on a pedestal.
Yeah.
And his pedestal got kicked out from underneath him.
Speaking of, ready? Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Well,
go
speaking of, Act 4,
which comes after 3.
Does come after 3. Act 4.
Such a stupid bit.
No. So Act 4. After 1, 2, 3, you get 4. So I'll actually say this: the final chapter of Act 4 actually ends with the line, "First the reckoning, then the fall." So you've got that.
I love that line so much.
Good segue.
I put it in my review as well. Like, I was like, literally, review as in on my own Instagram post. I was just like, I loved that line.
No,
anyway, go on. Sorry.
No, it's all right. There's
that's
lots
why I put it in the context as well.
Yeah, no, I love it. There's so many good, like, one-liners throughout the whole series. Anyway, so obviously, so they've got Christmas break and everyone's going home to their families. Oliver's like, I don't really want to go to my family. And so he goes to Meredith's for Christmas. And
their relationship, just
it's
a little
so
bit
odd.
It does feel weird.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I remember reading at the time going, and this is before I was like solidified on the fact that the relationship between James and Oliver was more than friendship. And I was kind of like, it feels like an odd relationship to have, because Meredith didn't really seem invested.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, you're convenient because I have no one else at the moment. And Oliver was like, I'm not going to complain about that. Which I suppose, like, that's very male.
Yeah.
Just to, like,
and
sure.
he's done it before.
Yeah. So it felt like that was very weird. But I also think it makes sense in the circumstances, because they were all at this point trying to forget what had happened. And obviously we go through the investigation, but we're also going through more of their downward spiral, and they're all suffering, and they're all basically
losing their minds, honestly.
Losing the plot.
Yeah.
And it was just, it was a very weird relationship.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry, continue.
No, it's all right. No, I was just saying they all literally are, like, going insane.
Yeah.
So Ren's having episodes and is just, like, in her bed, like, all the time, because she can't, like, physically get up or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Meredith is becoming an alcoholic. What is it? Did Alexander actually overdose? I actually don't remember that.
Yeah, in his room, they found him.
Yeah, I've clearly blacked that bit.
Yeah. Yep, I remember
like
that.
him.
Yeah, literally. So, yeah, that happened. And then they get the cast for, like, King Lear. What am I saying? James is becoming more and more method, getting into his roles. And then Oliver is starting to confront all his feelings for both Meredith and James. And probably that's why you clocked more so that this guy likes James, is because Oliver's actually realising it more and actually thinking through it. Yeah.
Well, I think I feel like Oliver realised his feelings more when James actually started kind of seeing Ren, because there's like, it's kind of hinted at that there's something going on with Ren and James.
And also other people say it, like Alexander tells him, like, how daft are you, mate? They're obviously screwing.
Yeah. And Oliver's kind of like, what really?
Yeah.
Like, he can't, like, imagine it happening.
Yeah.
And then he kind of, like, the thing is, there's one point during one of the scenes where they're doing Romeo and Juliet, and they do some, like, live stage productions, in the sense that it's not on a stage. They do it in, like
within a party.
And they act within the crowd of at this party, and people just kind of stand around and watch them, and kind of, like, become part of the
scene, I guess.
The scene, that's a good way to put it. And Oliver is watching James and Ren as Romeo and Juliet, and he's kind of like,
I'm jealous.
That's not a normal sensation that I feel towards James.
I mean, he literally says that, like, that I'm hopelessly in love with James.
Yeah.
I thought he would say something like, I didn't realize I like James. He's like, no, I'm in love.
Yeah, and I went, and that's actually when my moment, I kind of went, oh. So it's Oliver that's gay for James, not James gay for Oliver. Because I was like, okay, clearly James and Renna have a relationship at this point, and I was kind of convinced that that's where that was. And then Oliver was just kind of like, on the side going, I'm in love with my best friend, basically. Obviously, it's so much more than that. Yeah. But it really comes to in this act, and I think Oliver starts to realize that what he feels for James, like he realizes that his feelings are different, that they're not just friendship, that is something more, and what he's mistaken as friendship and what's the term when you look up?
Like endearment? Oh, maybe endearment.
Or inspired, admiring.
Admiring, I think admiring was what I was going for.
Who's the dictionary now?
Thesaurus, not dictionary. Thesaurus. No. Thesaurus is a dictionary for words that have.
I know what a thesaurus is. Thank you. I don't need a dictionary.
Did you need a dictionary? Well, maybe you do.
Anyway, continue your
But
point.
I was using her as a thesaurus. Get it right.
Okay, you can be the dictionary.
Now I don't even know what I was saying.
Sorry, admire. Oliver's admiring.
Yeah, so it's not just admiration. It's not just friendship. It's a whole lot more.
Yeah.
And he's, I suppose he kind of has to come to. Well, there's no, I don't think there's any like homophobia in this book.
Nah.
Like, it's not really, no one's really like, because obviously Alexander's gay. He's got a gay relationship going on for pretty much the whole book. I think he's kind of openly gay.
I think it's the same. Oliver kind of realizes he likes Meredith. Or like he already knew, but he's like, I'll never get with her.
He's always had an attraction. He's always been attracted to Meredith since they first met. But basically thought she was too good for him.
This is also set in 1997. Like it's
Well,
not
that
that
was-
long ago.
no,
it was
but
definitely at
also-
a time where like acceptance was like on the rise.
But also it was definitely not the norm. Like it wasn't normal
Yeah.
for gay relationships to be out and open, and for guys I feel like especially more so.
Yeah.
It was not like, especially when you've been best friends for like 4 years,
Yeah.
because that's the way Oliver puts them, like they've been best friends, they've been roommates. It's not common for it wouldn't have been common. Like I wouldn't know. I was 1 at the time technically when this is set. So
Yeah.
I love that.
like so it's kind of like it's just it wasn't normal, and so like it was another thing on top of everything else that he's coming to realize.
Right. Yeah. I think again, like from my opinion, I don't think he was in love with him in like any kind of sexual way. I think it was simply the performance that was bringing out emotions in him, and he used to attach it to like what he thinks really, because he only fell in love with him when he was on the edge of his seat watching Ren and James perform. But it wasn't like he was like, oh, I wish James would kiss me, or oh, I wish James would take me to bed. It was more so like, I'm in love with James. Can't explain why or what or how. It's because every time they have a scene and they're so again like mesmerized by the other person, I genuinely was like, he's just in love with the performance. He sees James on this pedestal, likewise James as well, but we don't have his like point of view. But yeah, that's what, like, in my head, I did not, like, I just never saw it as a relationship. I never saw him and Meredith as a relationship either. I always saw them as, like, fill in the blanks in their loneliness.
It was just a conveniency.
Not even, like, convenient. It was more so, like, convenient, yes, but more so, like, a comfortable, like, it was the comfort that they craved from each other, and they knew that what they wanted, and without really explaining and putting into words what they need from the other, they could like just fill the gaps.
So do you think though with their relationship not being necessarily like a romantic love, with when we get to the end and it's basically like they kind of admit that they have love for each other,
Who?
James and Oliver,
and
then we jump forward and we get kind of some context from Oliver's time in prison and how James was visiting him and everything, and then once Oliver's out and he's like, I want to go to James. Do you not think that their relationship would have been romantic at that point?
No, I genuinely think they would have sat together and read books. Like that's how I see it.
Be more of like platonic? No.
Not like it's an intimate friendship almost, where they're so comfortable with each other and they love each other like beyond what a friendship would measure, but it's still like a deep appreciation rather than like this sexual intimacy.
Okay.
Because like they've seen each other naked a lot of times. And that's never invoked. Yeah, and that's never invoked like a lustful desire within them. Okay. So it's definitely not like it is love, but it's not a physical attraction love. There's no element of physical attraction, in my opinion. I think it's solely the emotion and the fragility. And
moving on to Act 5, which is the final act.
Yeah.
Yay! And it comes after
2.
Okay, not quite.
Almost.
So we finally
Wait,
gone
no,
through,
it comes after 4.
yeah, finally went through Act 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we're on Act 5.
I'm
Yeah.
just going to clarify. I'm not an idiot.
No,
It's
no.
a bit.
We know you're
It's
not
a
an idiot.
stupid bit. But I can't help
It's
myself. We
stupid.
start something I can't stop until it's over.
It's silly, but it's funny. Yeah. So we get to Act 5. We have discussed it a little bit. So, what are we? Hang on, sorry, I did read it. Sorry. So James has finally lost his mind and he's fully under the Shakespeare spell and just absolutely losing it. Oliver finds the boat hook. He finally puts 2 and 2 together, goes, oh, James did do something worse and I don't know. Meredith also kind of figures out something's going on, calls the cops, and then the next day they rock up and Oliver takes the fall. And then we've got James is still going crazy, still, the guilt is driving him to insanity, and he basically begs Oliver to let him take the fall. But Oliver is too in love and he's like, no, James, I've got it.
He kind of falls into his eventual hero role by protecting the people he loves by going, nope, I'll take this for everybody.
Yeah, he becomes a martyr and kind of saves the group and takes the fall and goes, no, it was me, it was only me, and I killed him.
It's his hero evolution complete.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, except he didn't really level up. He just got a prison cell instead.
No.
More like
But anyway.
complex savior because he's not a hero.
No, that's
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll say that.
I don't think he was a hero, but
Yeah.
he definitely changed his narrative, which was the main
Probably
point.
a bit more
Yeah.
of a point than...
He went from being the side character, though. Rather than being stuck
The
in
focal
this
point.
role,
Yeah.
he learnt to step out of that role
Yeah.
and into something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say this was the act where I started crying. Like I was actually, because it was more so, it wasn't about the events or what's going on in the book. It was just like, I do this thing where I'm like really, really trying to picture the characters and what they're going through. Like no matter what I read, and that's why I will be the first to cry for anything, and that's okay. But James is just like agony, like to think about like how much guilt and grief he must be dealing with to keep it to himself and constantly change his personality based on these other tragedies they're acting out, like not being able to separate fiction from reality, and just I could not, like, I started, like, bawling slowly. I was like, oh, my gosh, my baby. You're not a bad person, but I totally understand. And, like, it's like if you, like, have, like, something happens in your own life where you just feel guilt, or, like, you say something and you just say, if I don't go and just message this person, and, like, even though it might, like, make it more dramatic, but I need to message this person, I'm like, hey, I said this in this conversation. Obviously, it didn't mean it by this context, but I just realized it may have came off that way, and I'm just so sorry because I feel like shit. I can't, like, imagine how it must feel for you. You can't message Richard.
No.
You can't do that.
Not an
and I was
option.
just like, the guilt, like, that eats me inside when I say something bad to someone, even if I don't like them. Like, I've found myself to go back to them and I'm like, hey, you know what? That was uncalled for. My bad. I take it back. But, like, I can't even imagine if I was like the murdering end of something. Like, I don't even know how I would deal with that. And I think I would become depressed, and my anxiety would be crazy. And it wouldn't be even like, I don't think it was like the anxiety of like, oh, the cops are going to catch me. It was just the guilt festering one step at a time. And you could see, like, from day one when they found the body, like we read, he was running towards to save Richard. Like, he was the one to be sprinting. Oliver didn't even care about Richard. He's like, James is going to throw himself, so I will go first.
Yeah.
So you could see, like, the guilt had already started. He was throwing up. He was losing weight. He was starting to get so engrossed in acting because he thought that would be his escape. But unfortunately, it wasn't. And I just, like, got very emotional for him.
Yeah.
And just what he was going through. And I really hope, like, I was really hoping just, like, he can find a way out of it, but like that, it's one of those things where, you know, like, normalcy is gone for those characters.
All people can, like, even like in real life, not necessarily the book, is you just kind of, you can't ever really move on from it. You just have to kind of find a way to live with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not everybody can, which is the hardest part. Sometimes that one choice to do one thing might have been like, you know, for James, it was basically kill or be killed, kind of. He didn't really have much other choice. Because I really feel like if he hadn't incapacitated Richard, Richard would have kept going.
Yeah.
Like-
Richard would have killed him, and I also think Richard would not have felt the guilt.
No, not at all. He would have just moved on. Like, he would have been... I think there would have been signs that something had changed. I feel like necessarily the aggression he was feeling would have been different in the sense he might have felt placated in the sense he goes,
I
well,
actually think he would have gone to prison right away. I don't
possibly.
think Philippa would have,
well, that's only if Philippa had actually stumbled upon it. There's every possibility that Richard might have avoided her.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Because he might have seen her coming and avoided.
Or like if this exact same turn of events happened, I reckon if Richard was the one to win that battle and go off and Philippa was to find him, I reckon Philippa would have turned him in.
Or
I don't
everyone
think
would have
she-
turned him in.
yeah.
But I also
Who's
feel
the
like, though,
villain
if...
who's abusing us?
Well, yeah, but if that's the type, like, if you think about it, Philippa might have also been in danger at that point.
Yeah.
Because if she realised what had happened and he went, well, you're not going to be on my side.
Yeah.
Well, what? You're next.
Yeah.
And it would have
Yeah.
it could have also just kept going.
That's
it could
true.
have.
Yeah.
So, what would have happened? How far would he have gone to
Yeah.
protect himself? Because he's a very selfish person. Everything's about him.
Yeah.
So he didn't even care about his own cousin. Ren was distraught because, like, she loved him, but
Yeah, and
he didn't care.
Yeah.
So, like, it could have been a very different circumstances if
Yeah.
James hadn't acted the way he did. And unfortunately, like, it destroyed his life pretty much. And
Yeah.
he couldn't find a way to move on.
Yeah.
Which is
Destroyed
really
his life
sad.
to what degree?
Yeah.
What degree? It's a question.
I don't know.
He killed himself.
Well, did he? You were the one who turned around and went, but did he?
Nah,
and then I was just like, what? Well, it gives you the impression that he did.
Yeah.
Look, until you made that comment, I was just like, so basically, we get past the final act, but we get to the point, so we kind of get back to modern day. Oliver's basically said to the detective, this is everything that's happened. This is why I this is why I admitted my guilt, or omitted guilt, when technically I wasn't the one who started it all. And Colburn's also retiring at this point, so he's not going to, change charges or anything. It's like, what's done is done. This is just, he now knows the
He's
truth.
lived out the 10-year sentence.
Yeah, exactly. And then Philippa actually gives Oliver a note from James. It's a letter that was written. And my interpretation of it was basically, he couldn't live with what he'd done. And he also suffered not guilt from not only killing Richard, but guilt from Oliver being in prison for 10 years, and basically his life being wasted by being stuck in prison.
Yeah.
When it was his responsibility, he should have been the one who should have gone to prison. And it kind of implies that James kills himself. And this had happened a couple years prior to Oliver being released.
Which is why
James stopped visiting him in
And
prison.
again, Philippa being the balance, she didn't tell Oliver because she was like, if I tell him in prison, he's going to unalive himself as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta wait on that one.
Yeah.
Which was so sad. Because, even if removing the romance of it, James and Oliver obviously were best friends.
Yeah, I was bawling at this point, for sure.
Yeah,
literally.
I didn't cry to it. I felt like, but it was heavy. It was really a heavy moment, and you kind of like, because he's out of prison, and he's like, I'm ready. Like, let's move on, forget all about this. We've got whole lives ahead. I'm gonna go and find James. We're gonna be happy. We're gonna move on together. And then Philippa is like, just
Yeah, just
I'll
about
leave you
that.
to read that.
She told him before the letter, like her and Colborne both told him that James is gone. So before he went to Meredith.
Oh no, he did. Sorry, because that's why he ends up going to Meredith, because James is gone. But then he gets the letter. Does she post it to him? I can't remember.
Philippa posts the letter to
That's right. Yep.
something like
After he's moved in with Meredith.
Yeah.
Which again,
Well,
I
after
did kind of think that was a bit weird, but
a lot going on.
that was odd. But anyway, so we reached the end, and kind of we don't really know what had happened with James. Alicia's got her theory, so you tell them your theory.
She was saying something.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't realize.
No. I don't have anything to say.
Oh, okay.
You go.
Oliver moved in with Meredith. I think the reason, I found that to be a very perfect ending because I always saw their relationship as filling gaps in each other's lives, and it continued to do that in the very end. So they still stuck to their roles, and to the very end, they continued to stick to their roles. So in the book, this is the biggest spoiler because, sorry, thanks. It's literally the last page. Oliver reads the letter, and then he talks about how I'm all too aware of my own desperate need to find a message in the madness, and as it takes shape, I'm suspicious, afraid to hope. But the implications of the text and its small part in our story are impossible to ignore, too critical for a scholar as meticulous as James to overlook. When I can't stand another moment's inaction, I race up to the stairs of the office, my head full of what would have been Pericles' last words if he had not asked for help. The computer on the desk crackles to life when I touch the mouse, and after one interminable minute, I'm on the internet searching for every record I can find of James Farrow's death in the bleak midwinter of 2004. Oh yeah, Oliver is not really good with technology because he's been in prison. I devour 5, 6, 10 old articles, all of which say the same thing. He drowned himself on the last day of December, and though the local authorities dragged the freezing water for days and miles, his body was never found. Thank you. So James's supposed suicide note to Oliver is actually a quote from Shakespeare's Pericles, Prince of Tyre. The quote, which Oliver recognizes, is from this play, and it was actually referenced in the first act. Can't remember what it was referenced for, but it was. And Pericles, and I'm probably not saying his name right whatsoever. Pericles.
I feel like it's Pericles.
Pericles? Yeah,
Like
Pericles.
Hercules.
Because that sounds,
yes,
but Pericles sounds familiar.
Yeah, Pericles is the right one.
maybe.
Pericles, his wife Thaisa's apparent death at sea is what sent Oliver to think that this could be the double meaning. So this passage, that the fact that James' body was never found, leads Oliver to believe that James might still be alive. But also, I also think that because Oliver keeps putting James on a pedestal, that there's a chance that he keeps thinking that James is better than what he does say that he's too critical of a scholar to do this kind of thing without.
Yeah, he's so good.
Yeah, and it was more so why would he send me this passage, because he's too smart to do this. But it could easily just mean that no, he just wanted to die. But it could also mean that in that particular play, the prince is mourning the loss of his wife. This scene is particular for later when he finds his wife is still alive. So in that play, the wife dies at sea, but she actually never died, and he finds out later.
It's is James dead?
Yeah.
So the only thing with that, in my head, when you think about the actual things that James was suffering through, what makes me think he actually went through with it was, why would he fake his death? He had no reason to fake his death in the sense he's not going to go to prison. Oliver's already in prison. Oliver's I'm not going to let you end up in prison.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's faking his death to avoid prison. So, but what does faking his death get him, if you make sense? I know some people fake their death to start their life again, but that's generally to cover up or hide from their past, in the sense that someone's after them, coming after them. So has he faked his death because he doesn't want Oliver to come find him, because he doesn't think he can cope with having to live with Oliver and the guilt of knowing that Oliver went to prison for him?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is that the reason why he would have faked his death? And in my head, I'm I don't feel like that's enough. So to me, I think he's actually, my interpretation is, he actually did do it. And Oliver's just got from that, I would say Oliver's probably doing that whole wishful thinking. I want to choose that he's alive so that I don't have to think that he's actually dead.
Yeah. I think
I
the
agree
opposite,
with that.
simply literally because...
No, that's fair.
Yeah. I totally agree, with that being because it's an open-ended in my head. It could be
It is
either
up for
or.
interpretation.
Yeah. I definitely think that he is alive, and I think him killing himself or him faking his death was simply you can fake your death to start a new life, or death itself represents so many things in the sense that a start of a new life almost. And I think he did that as in his faking death means the end of his guilt. Because he stopped coming to Oliver, and he begged Oliver throughout this time that let me take the fall. And Oliver kept refusing, and he didn't want to go against his friend's words. So he faked his death, meaning he ended his guilt. And that's how I saw it. And this is a very common Shakespeare thing. Shakespeare has said this with his plays, and he has often reminded us that in literature nothing is accidental. And James, from Oliver's point of view at least, he is the smartest of the 7, like James is the smartest, so he would not write his one directed letter in a Shakespeare quote if there was not an intentional meaning to be decided under the words. Because if he wanted to write a quote, or like a suicide note, or like a letter to Oliver, like he could have written so many different things.
Yeah, no,
but it was
that's
like
fair.
a very intentional choice. But yeah. So so my like last was like, James is alive and Oliver should think of their trip to the Del Norte to go find him, or Norte, or whatever, however you pronounce it, and go there and find him. But that's my thoughts. Yeah.
Fair. I have no thoughts to share.
Yeah.
It was a sad ending.
Yeah,
it was.
That's about it.
And it was so sad because like Meredith also said like, we have to let this go, and then Oliver gets this letter and he's just like, you're at work, so let me go surf the internet, and we're back to hoping, and we're back in the same cycle again and again. And it was like,
because she dealt with it. He didn't even know, so obviously he was supposed to deal with it.
Yeah.
It's like, what's another tragedy to add to your life, bro?
Yeah. And again, it could just be one of those things like where they're again like so engrossed in their acting that they're like, what's the next play? What's the next act? What's the next scene?
Yeah.
And it just keeps going. It's never ending.
I'm happy to go first.
Yeah,
Go for it.
So I gave If We Were Villains a 4 out of 5 stars. Because I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun reading this book. It was very emotional, ups and downs. I really loved seeing all the journeys of the characters. And I really enjoyed Oliver's unreliability. But I also love a murder mystery. So I had fun going, I know it was you. I know it's you. And I really like doing that type of stuff. So I really, really enjoyed it. Also, one of my things I liked about Oliver and his unreliability was the fact that it was chaotic. Like, it was all over the shop. Yeah. It wasn't just him being, like, intentionally misdirecting you. It was kind of like he didn't really understand what was going on, and he was just kind of going, sure, that's what it is. Yep, let's go with that. And
worries.
And so it was just messy and chaotic.
Yeah.
And just, overall just a really, really, really good read, and it was engaging and interesting, and just, I loved it.
Yeah, I also gave it 4 out of 5. Would have given it a 5 on 5, but I think 4 is more fitting because I do think the start of the book was quite slow, and also I totally get and understand that if you don't read all the Shakespeare plays, you're still going to understand and enjoy the book. But I do, having read all the plays that connect to it, I know the amount of different layers and stuff I see because of that understanding. And that's why I gave it 1 less point, because I'm like, sure, you can get it without, but for readers that aren't reading all these plays, like, they are missing out on like some mini subplot aspects of it, which is why I just thought that like maybe there could be, like, I know at the start she says like, oh, you don't have to read any of these plays, but I'm like, you don't, but like if you want to understand the author's full intention of the book, then you should. But that's not to say that it wasn't a very exciting and immersive book, and I did really enjoy it. But yeah.
Nice. Well, I gave it 3 out of 5 stars.
No.
I did enjoy the book. For me, it's just I don't pick up like lit fiction, like generally, and I think respectfully, the reason is it makes me feel silly, like stupid, as in not stupid, but like there's all those levels and layers, and I'm like, I'm not going to read that far into something. Like I'm here for a good time and good vibes. Yeah. And so there's definitely like, I feel like I did miss out a bit, but I was like, but I wasn't prepared to go to that level of research to read it.
No, fair.
Like,
I'm with you.
Yeah. And so I was like, I gave it a 3 out of 5. It's not what I generally pick up. Like, I still really enjoyed, like, figuring out who died, who did it, kind of thing. Like, I was really involved in that, and I really enjoyed the conflict of the characters being like, well, this is my character, like, that I'm playing, but also this is my feeling, and how they kind of get lost in both. Like, I enjoyed that without having all the
but like your reason exactly why I gave it 1 less than 5, because exactly this reason I can see how a lot of readers won't enjoy or like
they'll only take it at surface level.
Exactly. Like there is only one limit you can see it through, because you're just not going to know, and that's like that's the reality of it. And that's why I was like, that's not a 5 on 5 for me.
No, totally. And it's like, I recognize that there is that level of depth in it, and it's like, I know Romeo and Juliet quite well, so I could understand what's happening between what is it, James and Ren, and that was quite interesting to see that like parallels, but I'm not prepared to go and read. How many plays did you read? Like 7?
7.
Yeah, I'm not prepared for
That's
that level of
intense.
depth.
They all only took like 3 hours or something each.
Yeah, and go
But
you.
yeah.
That's you reading
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
Someone who does read like
Yeah.
all those type of literature stuff and their
Yeah,
study.
yeah, yeah. No,
And
but
also
I totally
Old
agree.
English.
This was a literature book. In my head, this wasn't a murder
Old
mystery.
English.
It was very
Yeah.
much a literature book. So
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And
I feel
that's
like
fine.
it's like yes, literature, but I think with elements of murder mystery.
And also, it was very college drama-y, like
Yeah.
teen. Like it reminds me of like the TV shows coming out. You know, like I haven't actually watched that one. I forgot what it's called
No,
now.
I know what you're talking about, huh?
Euphoria.
Oh,
Again, I haven't watched.
You mean
that.
the one with
Is it Euphoria or is that the
with
song? Zendaya.
Zendaya? Yes, Euphoria.
Yeah. Again,
yes.
I'm sorry, I haven't watched it. But what I imagine it to be.
no.
Okay.
Just
no.
no.
So
What I
far from,
imagine
but
it to be-
I totally
What
understand
I'm
where you're
saying
coming
is,
from.
it's like teens. I mean, like young adults
Yeah,
dealing
yeah.
with like heavy like themes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
heavy
Yeah.
situations. And so this isn't like a feel good book. This is definitely a morally
Mm.
ambiguous thinking book.
Yeah. This is not the type of book you read for a vibe.
No.
No.
And that's why I found
This book does require like quite like
Intention,
it's not
thoughts.
Yes.
such a small
Yes.
book comparatively, but
Oh yeah, it's not very long.
Yeah,
a
it's,
week to read.
yeah, it's not particularly a long book. But for me, I was like, I don't have the mental capacity currently to like delve into all that. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I gave it a 3 out of 5. I would still really recommend
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you do like lit fiction and all the things we've discussed.
If
But-
you like lit fiction, you will enjoy
you'd
it
love
to
this
some
book.
degree.
Yeah, totally.
I
Totally.
was like,
yeah.
not entirely because I've read a lot better ones, but this one is up there. Like it's definitely like really good.
Yeah.
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 Which means with that, so 4 star, 4 star,
3
3
star.
star, it's a 3.75.
Yeah,
3.75 from the Girlies That Read.
Woo!
So, thank you so much for joining us today, guys. If you did enjoy this video, please make sure you smash the thumbs button, give us that likes up, click the subscribe. If you want to see more, you can also hit the bell. The bell will actually let you know when we post. We do
True.
post every Monday, Australian Eastern Standard Time
Every fortnight.
at 5:30 on a Monday. So, we do have a regular schedule coming out. So, click that bell, click the subscribe, join in with all of our craziness and everything. But yeah,
You know
it's
the
been good.
drill.
Yeah.
You know it by now.
I don't know. I don't even know. You know the drill better than we would know the drill.
Yeah,
but yeah,
probably.
links up ahead. Find us social medias, link tree on our channel. Check all that out. And we'll see you soon with another video.